Shalom. Real quick, total sums. SUMS, total sums. Very important. There are very, very few absolutes beyond the Godhead. Very few of those absolutes in this life, anyway. Grain of salt, context, as with anything. Total sums. As it pertains to my individual timeline, sequence of events from cradle to present, life experiences, total sums. Western part of the world, North America, Midwest region. Again, based on individual timeline, sequence of events of Perry's timeline, life experiences, I would exempt the state of Indiana as an anomaly. If you don't like that metric, I exempt, or I would recognize the state based on life experience. I would recognize the state of Indiana as a southern state. A place somewhere in the deep south. Not just based on experience as a temporal resident in Griffith, Indiana. So I could be at that time I could be close to work, to the poker room there at the Horseshoe, than the other poker rooms. As far as variance, and then context, Indianapolis is they're behind the times. I'm not saying that's good or bad. There's more good there than bad, but Indianapolis is a slow city. It's behind the learning curve, if you will, of other major cities anyway. There is only white variance, is my point. To make this short, I have to go run. The elders. Now the top of the utterance was total sums. So in my recall, my hand history, every hand that I played as an Uber driver, because at this period I'm sleeping in my car. I was in Indianapolis just doing Uber. For personal experience, life experience, to explore and discover. That was the whole point of me going down there, to do Uber exploration anyway. Based on the total sum Perry as an Uber driver in Indianapolis for a period of let's just say 3 to 4 months. The total sum of sequence of events, every hand that I played, every single interaction, every pitch range with either sex, the pitch range, the measure of the pitch range, their demeanor, their postures, gestures in the car seat, how actions are louder than words in the backdrop, and then black, white, gray variants in the backdrop. But I was only exposed to white variants, or I was only exposed to the light. The elders, they have to sit in the front seat. They have to make direct eye contact, pupils fully dilated. They have to shake your hand. They have to address you as if you're their flesh and blood. Complete mutual respect as an adult or as a human being or as a person or as their Uber driver. Complete mutual respect, sincerity. The business women, rinse and repeat. The pitch range, the sincerity, the organicness, the richness, the grassroots richness of sincerity in the pitch range, the demeanor, the complete. And this is a correlation that these metrics I'm using is in correlation to every sequence of events, every exchange, every hand I played as it pertains to total recall, that hand history with Gentiles in Illinois, where by and large things were polar opposite. Slamming the door. And these manifestations are out of inferior complex. I inflamed them, or the gospel music inflamed them, or just general application, spirit of hate, spirit of bitterness, superior complex, narcissism. Majority of my exposure to Gentiles in Illinois two-thirds of it was black variants. And then the rest you would chop up to gray and white variants. The slamming the door like they're going to break the window, slamming it so hard, slam the trunk like they're trying to break the trunk of the car. The women, what would come off as far as visible tells, could easily come off, be discerned as prejudice or racism. Metaphysically speaking, the nervous energy inside the car. By the way, these frequencies in the atmosphere of the cabin of the car were not coming from Perry's temple. I was not omitting those frequencies, that energy signature. Okay, we're dealing with sensory skills. That's spiritual discernment. Okay, this energy and the frequencies associated with that energy was coming off of the passenger, the customer. Disdain, contempt, bitterness, anger, or sociopathy, where they attempt to patronize you, attempt to manipulate you with the Trojan horse of a genuine smile, the Trojan horse of laughter, the Trojan horse of genuine small talk, no, I think I got that backwards. Psychopathy. Only to slam your door when they get out your car, and then come to find out by Uber or Lyft, you received a negative review, or 1 star or 2 stars, and they made a complaint about you about something trivial. Yeah, psychopathy. Yeah. As if they outsmarted you. And these kind of manifestations, again, are manifestations of overall mental illness anyway. And then indoctrination systems. White pride, white power, indoctrination systems. And then you have to give some leeway. Just insane levels of violence in Chicago, in context as a spoon-fed, or whatever that's called, spoon-fed white man or white woman as a passenger in your car of a black man, and just the insane hyper levels of violence in Chicago. Any type of fallout in the form of paranoia, hallucinations, panic attack, soft panic attack. Chicago is a very fast city, and by soft panic attack, anxiety attack, I'm alluding to because it's a very fast city. Many of them, as soon as they call the Uber, they probably wouldn't even pay attention to the skin color of the driver, because they're trying to get ready to make sure they don't miss the Uber. And then once they get into the car, oh, it's one of you. Soft anxiety attack, soft panic attack. As far as nervousness in her vocal cords, okay, the crackling in the vocal cords, okay, energy signatures, okay, frequencies emitting off of her person, off of his person. And then visible tells when you look in your from time to time, just to check on your passenger. It's your car, it's your enterprise, you're responsible for them. Just to check on the passenger from time to time in your rear view, or quote unquote having a genuine discussion of banter as it pertains to their psychopathy, and then undermining you or usurping that sequence of events in your car to only give you a 1-star review or 2-star review, or slam the car door shut like they're going to try to break the window, like they were attempting to crack the window. You have to give leeway there. Okay, second person view. Okay, I'm a white woman. I'm a white man from the suburbs. I was raised in the suburbs. Okay, I'm self-aware of the insane levels of violence in Chicago. I get into the car. Oh, it's one of your kind. There's honest leeway there. Security, personal safety issues, spirit of ignorance manifests out of the anxiety of for personal safety, security issues. There's some honest leeway there. I grew up in a white world. My friends were white. The teachers were white. The neighborhood was white. There's leeway there anyway. The total sequence of events. My time in Indianapolis. Things were night and day compared to Illinois. From Rockford down to boy, down to like South Holland. I mean, all the way down into Maryville, Gary. That was my turf. Sleeping in my car, making money, and then playing poker. That was my turf. Anyway, because the top of the utterance is total sum. So the total sum of sequence of events regarding every kind of demeanor, every kind of facial expression, with a grain of salt. Okay, if they're in the front seat, okay, you can see micro expressions and whatnot, and you can still see things in your peripheral. Any type of small talk, and then outside of, or set aside small talk, the energy in the atmosphere, okay, the frequencies in the atmosphere, metaphysically speaking, okay, spirit of peace, spirit of joy, spirit of love, spirit of hate, spirit of anger, spirit of strife, as opposed to Illinois, down in Indianapolis. Things were day and night, polar opposite. The college kids, male, female, the college kids, they talk to you like your flesh and blood. 100% mutual respect. They address you as a human being. They address you as a person. Now, I'm not going to get into religion. I did not ask any questions related to religion. What are your spiritual beliefs? You know, were you raised in a Christian home? I did not ask any of these kinds of questions. So religion aside, it would be very easy to presume these people were all Christian. But anyway, based on my life experience, those sequence of events, every customer, and then a sequence of events, every pitch range, every change in pitch range and tone of voice, demeanor, every change, alteration in demeanor, body language, facial expressions, micro expressions, the polarity of the topic range, what was discussed, why was discussed, the tipping, the grassroots origins of it all. No one slamming your door. No one slamming your trunk. None of the women exiting, literally, as in Illinois, literally exiting the vehicle in less than 2.5 seconds in heels without bruising their ankles, without spraining or injuring their ankles in any type of way. Being able to exit the vehicle in under 2.5 seconds. As opposed to Indianapolis, exiting a vehicle very safely improperly or in a way that's very kosher anyway. The total sum of sequence of events as it pertains to who, what, where, when, why. Not what Samantha or Sarah or Matthew or Mark or a cashier, a co-worker. This is not some individual based thing. What somebody said to you, the bus driver, someone, another passenger on the bus, on the train, on the airplane, an employee in the airport, a customer in the airport, another traveler in the airport, someone walking past you down the street in your neighborhood. The top of the utterance is total sum. The total sum. When you go over your own recall, your own hand history. And I may be slightly autistic because because of my skill sets from things I took away from poker. I play back things over and over and over and over until I'm done. Until a conclusion is drawn. If one can be drawn, if I can solve for why. Walking down the street, someone on their cell phone, or a woman on her cell phone, and she's walking and texting. She looks up, rolls her eyes. Odds of probability suggests, irregardless of skin color or age demographic, that was not premeditated. Odds of probability would suggest she looked up to reflect on something, to gauge something, gauge her response. Compartmenting her trains of thought and trying to select the best route, okay, the best train. In response, whoever she's talking to on the other side of that text, irregardless of the unknown variable that happened to just be right there when she looked up to gather her thoughts. Discern which one is most applicable, most appropriate as it pertains to the discussion she's having with someone or a set of individuals, the opposite side of that text. And then the actual rolling of the eyeball could be from a mutual attraction or a mutual one-sided attraction. Not the same thing. Or a unmutual one-sided attraction. Variations of the same thing. Ice, water, or steam. Moving on. The total sum. Every exchange, verbal, non-verbal. Actions are louder than words. Body language, facial expressions, micro expressions, demeanors, postures, tones in each area, like the spectrums of color, the different tones in each area. Facial expressions, body language, demeanors, postures, each category. The tones, like the different spectrums of color. The total sum in your hand history, your recall, as far as you can go back, what you can remember from kindergarten forward. Your teachers, going places with your parents, running errands, their interactions with Gentiles. In context with a grain of salt, based on my personal timeline, the sequence of events of that timeline in the Midwest region of the western part of the world. Interactions with my school teachers, any classmates, high school, secular jobs, churches, anywhere, grocery stores, anywhere in the Holy Bible Live. Anywhere. Which, again, based on personal experience, I would exempt the state of Indiana from this calculus, because I was only exposed to white variants. And sleeping in your car, doing Uber and Lyft, you're exposed to everything, because you pick people up first shift, second shift, third shift. You see everything, you hear everything. Gentiles are polar opposite of those in other Midwestern states. That's just my personal subjective, my takeaway. The total sum, based on total sum of sequence of events in all the tangibles and intangibles, I can discern from all those sequence of events as it pertains to Gentiles. Whether I was picking women up at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and there are neighborhoods in Indianapolis with no sidewalks. You have to drive on top of grass to get to her house. And you're having a discussion as if you're flesh and blood. There's no crackling in her vocal cords. As far as frequencies, there's no nervous energy tension in the cabin of the car, the atmosphere. There's no spirit of fear. There's no spirit of hate. There's no spirit of anger. Critical thinking would suggest why or why not here in those kinds of spots. Why or why not? That's critical thinking. There are no street lights on, if there are any street lights at all in some of these neighborhoods. Why is that? Why is there an absence of spirit of fear? Why is her level of self-awareness, self-understanding so age appropriate? Her application in those kinds of spots from her perspective as a woman in a man's world, and then as from her perspective only a African American as her Uber driver. 1 a.m, no streetlights in her neighborhood, no sidewalks, no nothing. Why is her application of emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, self-awareness, self-understanding so age appropriate? Or in front of the learning curve, that would be age appropriate. Why or why not? Who raised her? Where applicable. How did she raise herself where applicable, etc.? Why did she not slam the car door to try to crack the window? Why is she not under psychopathy? Why did she not use banter as a Trojan horse? A certain measure of decorum as a Trojan horse. In one way, in an attempt to patronize, in another way to get on with the ride and just get it over with. To only in her end game make a bogus report or give you 1 star or 2 stars and make a trivial complaint about you. Why or why not? Anyway, back to the total sum. We're gonna get out of Indiana. I think we're gonna leave Indiana and come back to 99%, the lion's share of Perry's individual timeline, the total sum, sequence of events from kindergarten forward. Everything in your recall you can remember, discern. Every demeanor, every facial expression, every pitch range, every micro expression, every kind of eye contact in the classrooms. Meaning, that's what I was thinking about. In the classroom with teachers, with classmates, at recess, walking through the neighborhood with mom, back to Hillside Projects, after she picks me up from school. Every type of pitch range, facial expression, every type of short fuse, spirit of anger, spirit of hate, every type of frustrated animation with my mother when she would take me around the city to run her errands. There was white variance. The way they would greet her, like kin. Greet me like kin. Oh, how are you, Perry? Oh, where have you been? Oh, Perry. Oh, I have something nice for you. At the deli shop or something. Oh, Sylvia, bring your son more often. Oh, I'll always have something for both of you. Like your family. The total sum. And as a poker player, it's only worse. The rate that I play things back. Walk up and down my timeline over and over and over. Because from poker, things I took away from poker. To get a closer observation on things. Underneath a microscope, the ability to observe at a closer and closer distance for the sake of pattern recognition. And then, of course, all the unknowns, what trials, tribulations, at every event, every sequence that transpired, whether between my mother and some Gentile or me and a Gentile. Just got married, just got divorced, just got bad news from a doctor. Family member got into a fatal car accident. Children won't listen to them. The wife is cheating on them. The husband is cheating on her. A child is missing. Their own child is missing They reported it to the police. The police don't seem too interested because they're too busy, backed up, and overworked. So all the unknowns behind all of these interactions. The total sum. That's enough foundation. When I say there's something wrong with them, that's not disrespect. There's something wrong with the wiring system of this car. Let's strip it apart. We have to get to the wires. There's something wrong with one of the pistons of the engine. There's something wrong with spark plug 4. Spark plug 3. Yeah, spark plug number 3. Something wrong. Did I disrespect the car? I'm sorry, there's something wrong with your kidney. There's something wrong with your liver. Did I disrespect my patient? As it pertains to pineal glands, it's something wrong with them. It's not disrespect, it's just something wrong with the operating system. My observation as far as total sum of everything. And then how Judah rinse and repeat Gentiles, because that's all we were exposed to on the TV screen. On the big screen, all we saw were Gentiles. That's how we became indoctrinated to believe in white supremacy. And many of us still do. Many of my people still do. Which explains in some part why they feel it's hopeless. It's hopeless to go to college. It's hopeless to do anything with their life. Because they still believe in white supremacy. They look at Hollywood. They look at politics, senators, governors, mayors, House of Congress, judges, lawyers at the municipal, the federal, the state. Even juries. The TV screen, the magazine, the computer screen, they see Gentiles in positions of power. Owners of sports teams. They put 2 and 2 together and they still believe in white supremacy. Not to get off into that, what's really going on and how those who hold real power of their kind truly feel. I'm not getting into that. If you don't like the utterance, it's something wrong with them. Let's switch it up. It's something different with them. Okay? It's something different. I'm sorry, it's something different with your liver. It's something different with your kidney. It's something different with spark plug number 3. Let's take it up. Let's look at it. It's something different with spark plug number 4. Something different with the wiring system of this car. Let's get to it. It's something different with them. Processing power. The methodology. How they internalize, process, compartment, indoctrination systems very robotically, very rigid, stiff, like androids, like artificial intelligence. Very robotic. That's why you get these manifestations, these that quote unquote could come off as hypocritical. They'll tailgate you on the tollway. If you don't move aside in your rearview mirror, they will lose their temperatures and start talking to themselves or screaming at themselves. Listen to the words, please. And then irregardless if you move out of the way or not, once they find a way to get around you and get in front of you, before they do so, they may or may not attempt to communicate with you using inappropriate sign language. But then the polar opposite is manifest on residential streets. The jaw on the floor, the fishbowl eyes, the over exaggerated gestures. What is wrong with you? In the body language. Or they may be talking to themselves. They have to go out of their way to let you know what you did incorrect. You are out of line. You are inappropriate. Why are you going 10 over the speed limit in this residential area? What is wrong with you? Now, this could come off as prejudice or racist. But closer observation, it could be just the mechanical nature of Gentiles and how rigid, how dry, robotic, the way they internalize, process, compartment, indoctrination systems. And all of this at a non-cognitive level, unbeknownst to them. In other words, inability for one to think for themselves, to examine a school of thought as a contractor would, or an architect, to walk around that property, inspect it, do an aerial overview. What is the base? Do an underview. What foundation does this school sit on? How sturdy is that foundation? Inability to that's all to think for oneself means. Inability to inspect a particular school thoroughly, brick by brick. Walk through the corridors, not touching anything, not interacting with anything. Solely to observe and inspect. Walk through that school. Observe and absorb everything there is to absorb. And then quietly exit that building, that school of thought. Draw his or her conclusions and discern if that school is for them or not. If they will ever be in an enrollee or ever graduate from such a place. Or if they will never, ever look back or acknowledge that place ever again. Intelligence. All that I'm alluding to is something different with them. They do not have that ability. They're very, very mechanical and stiff and robotic. How they internalize, process, compartment, schools of thought, indoctrination systems. Which in one sense, why it's very easy for things to come off as prejudice or racist. In one sense, the hypocrisy, the night and day differences of behavioralisms, behavioral patterns. on the tollway versus on the street. Or thought life. Same, it's all synonymous. Thought life on the tollway, and then thought life behind the wheel on the street. Mechanical, stiff, very robotic, something different with their operating system. And then the mimicking, how Judah parrots Gentiles, because we were indoctrinated and led to believe in white supremacy. So we parroted the blasphemous holidays, blasphemous birthdays of Gentiles, their fleshly rituals, fleshly customs. Non-verbal communication. Linguistically speaking, non-verbal communication. Non-verbal dialects, forbidden wisdom, forbidden language. Actions are louder than words. We're dealing with action. The practice of fleshly customs, fleshly rituals. The action. Forbidden language, forbidden wisdom. Non-verbal communications. Profane talk, blasphemous holidays, blasphemous birthday celebrations. Blasphemous fashion statements of their women. Judah rinse and repeats like a parrot. It's something different with their operating system. It just is. Based on Perry's individual timeline, the total sum of sequence of events of that timeline. From first person view, Perry himself, his experience with every teacher, every classmate on the recess in the lunchroom. The things my eye gates, my ear gates were exposed to. Verbal communication, non-verbal communication of the passengers on the bus with my mom. And then second person view, my interpretation, my subjective of my mother's experiences with Gentiles. And then based on whatever 2 cents she would impart onto me as a result of those confrontations. In the total sum of those sequence of events I was exposed to. All that's denoted something wrong with them. Synonymous is something different with the operating system. For me, that's not debatable. It's just something different with them because of 6 DNA series. And then the latter, Judah, Hebrew Jews possessing 9 DNA series. One group has a calcified pineal gland, the other group does not. It's just something different with them. I'm out of time. All praise unto the Most High, Abba Yah, in His Son, Jesus, the Christ of Nazareth, Yeshua HaMashiach. Shalom.